Greetings, fanboys and fangirls. Jared here with another video review from Fanboys Forever. Today I have a review of the brand new McFarlane DC Multiverse The Batman 12-inch statue. And this is the gold label edition. This means that it has an exclusive paint job, and I do believe this one is exclusive to Walmart here in the United States. Something really important to point out about this particular release is that this really isn't so much of a figure as it is a statue. Definitely this harkens back to kind of what McFarlane used to be known for, like back in the days when I was buying the Matrix figures that he did and things like that. So this is much more like what we used to expect from Todd. Looking at the packaging, you can see the gold label sticker up there. You can just see the movie logo and some cool comic book artwork in the background. On the side, you see the Batman and I believe some awesome Jim Lee artwork in the background. We have another look at that terrific Jim Lee art on the back. And on the side, we get a nice stylized bat logo. Up above, it says the Batman. And here's a look at the UPC code, just in case you need it at the bottom of the box. Remember, this is a Walmart exclusive as far as I know. Before we start the review, it is worth noting that there are two other versions of this particular statue. There is a gold version and there is a standard colors version with Batman just in his regular black with a flesh tone mouth. I believe they're all available in the new displays that are hitting a lot of Walmarts right now. So, of course, if you could, we'd really appreciate the like. It allows the algorithm to get it out there to all sorts of other fans. We'd also really appreciate it if you'd subscribe to the channel. We have all sorts of new videos all the time, and I reviewed everything from the Batcave that's setting behind Batman to the Batmobile that Spin Master released to a bunch of the 3 3/4 figures. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on all the fun. Let's go ahead and open them up. So when you first open up the box, there are a few different pieces that you get. One of them is this really nice art card. Now, a lot of folks have complained that we're not getting much art anymore on a lot of these cards, and we're just getting photography of the figures. So it's nice to have a dedicated art card to that awesome Jim Lee artwork that we saw all that time ago. It's really lovely. And the statue looks to recreate it. On the other side, we just have the Batman chest and insignia. Something I didn't expect to get was a double-sided backdrop. So you can see we have all of the cool Jim Lee artwork of the city replicated. And on the other side, we even get the Batman movie logo. Something I definitely didn't anticipate was the inclusion of these really cool little transparent plastic clips at the bottom, which are just meant to hold this up in place behind the statue. And lastly, before getting to the actual statue itself, we get this really nice display stand. You can see we have a gargoyle. It is done in that same red and black color. You see lots of great stonework and even little imprints for where the feet will eventually go. It's not going to stand without that display stand. And so here it is without it. But I figure, and it's obvious why it won't stand. We'll get to that here in a second because the feet are all going in kind of different directions because of the way the display stand works. So before we get to it, let's just go ahead and take some time to where I can maneuver the figure without the stand to look at the sculpt. We'll start at the head here. And I have to say, even with the kind of artistic interpretation paint scheme, it is a really, really nice sculpt. It is definitely doing a very good job of emulating sculpt-wise Rob Pattinson as Batman. And you can see all of that cool cross-stitching and things with the paint work going all around the head, going as far as to have the stitching kind of done in the mask right there. That's really nice. I like how the eyes are red. I think everything looks really accurate. I really like the black shadowing that's around the chin. I think that really helps sell the effect. You can see that the neck there isn't a whole lot of color going on, but as we get into the chest area, that's where you can see a lot more of the magic happening with cross-stitching going on the shoulder here, and with a little bit of highlighting right there. Moving on down to his gauntlets, his gloves. There's a lot of black on the inside here as the shadow would be there. You can see more of that line work as if it were done in pencil. Over here, we have more of that red. On the gauntlets, you have all of the terrific detail on the chest panels, the insignia. The utility belt is especially impressive, as you can see every little bit of all the texture and every little detail on the gadgets. Looking down here at his holster, you can see that there is a non-removable, just sculpted in grapnel launcher. So I think that looks really great. You can see those panels. This one in particular is very impressive because you can see all of that faux line work. Once again, made to look like it's mimicking that drawing. Going on down, you have this beautiful work on the boot. But it's funny, from here, you would never know that it was the variant because it's all black. But that doesn't mean that the detail still isn't just incredibly impressive, and the inside of the cape is lovely. I'll just show you. The back, just completely black, except for a few little spots here of red. Now, you will notice that this scallop is a little bent, probably just the way it was in the packaging. Nothing's broken or anything, but it just kind of got flexed a little. So definitely something I'll have to maybe heat up and make sure it stays straight. As for the back of the cape, you can see that they did go to the trouble of giving it some nice red accents, and the effect is really nice here on both sides. And they even have some nice red highlights right here around the top of the cape and the back of the head. So I think overall it's a very Dracula-esque kind of look for Batman. And also, of course, gives you some of those Batman Beyond vibes, but I think they were very wise to make sure the Bat logo stayed black and the other areas were red. Had it been reversed, it just would have been a Batman Beyond figure, right? At least paint-wise. Let's talk about articulation. Yes, believe it or not, there is a tiny little bit of articulation. I honestly thought that the head would probably be able to turn, but unless I'm doing something wrong, there is no kind of motion in the neck. It appears to just be a glued-in piece, but there are 4 points of articulation on the figure. We have a shoulder swivel right here. This is about as high as you can go before you start feeling a lot of pressure from the chest plate, so about that high. You can go back pretty far though, about that far if you will. The other shoulder also has some swivel action. It can go up quite a bit further without feeling the limitation and then going down. I'm not exactly sure why that is. This chest panel perhaps doesn't come out quite as far as this one, but this one feels quite a bit more inhibited. I'm sure you could probably heat it up and then have the arm pass it. You can see I'm already getting it a little bit higher than I did, but it just feels like there's such pressure right here that it's just something that doesn't feel comfortable for me. And I think you'll know what I mean when you get it in hand. Here with the wrist, you can see that you can turn it, and it can almost turn all the way around, but it gets blocked by this panel right here. But it pretty well can go about anywhere you need it to go. Same right over here. And this one does go 360, just because the hand isn't as splayed out as this one is. All right, let's go ahead and get this guy in his display stand. In the background, I do have the Spin Master The Batman Batcave playset. I just thought it would be fun to have a little something extra in the background. Since the statue is so vertical, why not have something a little horizontal to cover the rest of the screen? And I have to say, this is just a really, really lovely piece. I think it really is just a beautiful display. It definitely mimics the Jim Lee artwork way more than I thought it would, especially looking at the card here. I know it's not exactly the same pose or anything, but I think that the spirit of the work, especially with the way that they conveyed it with the paint, I think that that is very much present here. This isn't something that's going to appeal to everyone, I don't think. It's definitely going to be for comic book enthusiasts like myself, who appreciate the work of Jim Lee and many other DC Comics artists, who want to see that comic book aesthetic kind of get intermingled with what they've done for the film's design. I think it also goes really well as a marketing piece, and I know that sounds kind of funny, but the truth is all the marketing for this film has been red and black. The Batman shirt I'm wearing right now is red and black, so that's kind of been where they've staked their claim in terms of color scheme, and I think this just works really well with that. It's also a celebration of that original test footage that director Matt Reeves released of Robert Pattinson in the Batsuit, where it was almost lit completely with red. For me, it's just a real thrill to see the comic book aesthetic and the film aesthetic kind of come together, and the extreme detail and styling that has gone on in this figure from a sculpt perspective really matches the intricate comic booky kind of cross-hatching and paintwork that they've done. And I know that seems like those two things should be opposing to one another, but they're really not, especially when you look at artwork as intricate as an artist like Jim Lee's. The more realistic the sculpt you can get, the more that it works when you overlay that kind of paint onto it. It's very important to me that in all my reviews that I'm 100% clear about the scale of the item that I'm looking at, to make sure that no one is accidentally misled. Apparently, this is in the 12-inch scale. Now, it's important to note that he has one leg kicked pretty high forward, and you can see that because he's so leaned forward, he comes to about 11 inches like this. However, if he were standing straight up, he would easily be 12 inches, especially with the display stand. I would say that it's a little smaller than some things that are in that 6 scale. It may not be a perfect match for something like a Hot Toy that would be on your shelf. I would say that this might be a ½ inch away from that. Here's what the Killing Joke Joker looks like in comparison to this statue. So this is definitely not in scale with your 7-inch McFarlane DC Multiverse figures. Most assuredly, he is also not in scale with the 3 3/4 Spin Master action figures, which really are more like 4-inch figures or 4.5-inch figures. Just to show you how big this guy is, here is one of the DC Mega Figs that McFarlane has put out. And we know that this figure is huge, even though I can't really get him on the stand to show you a comparison that way. Bane is not nearly as big as this Batman statue, so that's saying something. And here's a comparison with Peacemaker, just so you have to hear that catchy theme song in your head. I really do think that this is something special. Like I said, I don't necessarily think it's for everyone. That's why it is an exclusive product. This is, I believe, a Walmart exclusive. That is where I found it. I used the store pickup option. Even though my Walmart had not put out the giant The Batman display from McFarlane, as I'm seeing some others Walmarts doing, which leads me to believe that they probably just took it out of the display from the bag. So definitely use the Walmart app to check and see if they have it. As we wrap up my thoughts on the figure, I'll try to give you some more interesting angles of it. I will say that I think that this is quite a value. If I hadn't really addressed it enough before, it is only $40. In a time when the cost of action figures is rising dramatically for a myriad of reasons, I do think that getting a 12-inch scaled figure that is this solid, I have to say this hefty because it does have a really solid heft to it, is really an impressive feat. For $40, I really did feel like I was getting my value. Getting something that really works as such a nice display piece. It's so niche as well. This feels like something that really would be more of the collector's market, like specialty market, comic book store type of variety. And I'm continually impressed with the headway that McFarlane is able to make with getting items like these into Walmarts and big box retailers. And I think getting something just so specialty like this with such a wide release is awfully impressive, and I really think that it's just a very, very awesome looking figure. So if you're a fan of Batman, if you're a fan of Jim Lee's art, I think that you really can't go wrong with this piece. It's just awesome. I sure do want to thank you guys for watching the video today. Of course, it means the world to us here at Fanboys Forever that you're watching our content and you're enjoying it. So please be sure to leave a comment down below telling me what you think of this figure and telling me if you're excited for the new Batman film. I know that my hype is kind of in overdrive right now, and I'm just so excited that McFarlane has managed to get so much of this merchandise into Walmart specifically before the movie comes out. Of course, be sure to like the video if you can and subscribe. It would really help us out. And as always, God bless you and yours, and I'll see you on Fanboys Forever. Fanboy out. All right, that's it. You want a lawsuit? You've got one. I'm suing. I know just the lawyer to take the case.